So,
Oh no.
you opened for John Legend, and now you're opening for me. I mean, there's clearly a difference, but what's the main difference for you? Don't try me.
This is gonna be fun. This is gonna be really fun.
I'm nervous. How are you?
Chilling. How's everything?
I'm good.
Yep.
I've never done this before.
Me neither.
I've never interviewed somebody, and I've never been interviewed by an artist.
I try to speak as little as possible. So.
Me too. But I won't ask you any controversial questions.
Okay.
So shout out to that.
I might throw a couple gotcha questions in there.
Oh.
We'll see.
Okay, be careful.
It's just the journalist inside of me.
Got it.
So we'll see
You're a
what happens.
journalist?
No.
Oh, okay. I was about to say.
So Sabrina, I know we are we're touring together. We're working together. I guess my first question to you is, who was the artist that got you inspired to start your own music career?
I grew up on R&B and hip hop, but I gravitated more towards the R&B side. My dad just kind of always played R&B and hip hop in the car. And so when I was younger, I would listen to a lot of the 90s R&B and our generation, like R&B artists like Alicia Keys, Usher, you know, young Chris Brown, Destiny's Child, Boyz II Men. And then as I got older, got into a lot of like indie alternative pop music as well, and then I got into jazz and bossa nova, and it's just such a mixture of genres and artists that just kind of molded my sound. I don't even know how to categorize my sound. Okay, I have a question. Which artist out there right now is making you like want to step up your game?
I know when I was starting out and just putting stuff online, there was such a heavy blog culture. And like Hype Machine was a big thing, and it still is, you know, but the blogs kind of dictated the entire musical landscape if it wasn't on the Billboard charts. And I feel like there's so many young people that are kind of finding their own bubbles and moving that entire space of underground culture in their own way.
Right.
Sometimes I feel old because I don't know exactly where that's taking place. But I feel like there's girls like Umi, Noe, like a bunch of just like young people just doing really interesting
There's so many
things. Yeah, it's
so
ridiculous.
many. There's like
it's
a
huge.
new one every single day that you discover.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
If anything, it's like, okay, I got to step up my game and be even more authentic, you know, even more true to myself.
Exactly.
And so I know, like circa 2016, you came up through SoundCloud.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with that whole SoundCloud space.
Yeah.
What was your journey like crossing over? I don't even like to say crossing over, but you know what I mean, like going from SoundCloud to everybody's playlist.
I mean, SoundCloud completely changed my life. The thing is, I didn't have the knowledge on how to get on any other platform. And so SoundCloud is still the easiest way to put your music out there. And I'm still like SoundCloud all the way, just because prior to that, I was working on music that I wasn't into, that I was kind of being manipulated into making. And so when I moved to Los Angeles, I created Confidently Lost, the song, like that was the first song I created. And so I met the people that I'm with now till this day, and they had finally allowed me to release my music. Because prior to that, I wasn't being allowed, you know, to release my music. Super weird. And so after everything that I had gone through, and for SoundCloud to be the platform that kind of started my career, it was something I'll never take for granted. The crossover was super natural. I almost didn't even feel it just because of how naturally the numbers started growing and the people started listening and discovering my music. And so it obviously just molded everything about my career.
So, you know, back in the day, there was such a heavy wall on even being able to get into the recording studio and record a demo and release it on a label, like an independent label or a major or whatever. And obviously now we live in a space where everybody is constantly bombarded with music all the time. In general, I guess, do you think this is a better proof of concept for making interesting music that permeates to the mainstream? And what kind of challenges do you think the new artists have to face with this new social media landscape?
I think the biggest challenge is just the fact that there's so much out there. I think the hardest part is just sticking out. People are now like losing their attention span a little bit. So it's like, oh, I'm into this, now I'm into that, now I'm into this, and they like forget very easily. So what makes a difference is how good your music is, how different it is, how unique it is, how many people relate to it.
There's a lot, but at the same time, I think it's a more democratic process of selecting the cream and separating it from the crop.
Right.
You know.
But also, talent is like, unfortunately, not the priority at this point, which is because of social media. It's about numbers and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes it's a little bit difficult to have the cream rise to the top. Maybe like later on, but like immediately, that's like the more difficult part, I feel like, for the more authentic, like, this is what I'm destined to do kind of artist.
Yeah, I definitely feel that sometimes too. But I do get comforted when I know that at the end of the day, the artistry then is going to rise through. Like if you're really talented, but you don't have anything interesting to say, or you don't say it in an interesting way, it's just not going to be as strong. And you know, conversely, whatever tools you have, if you have the most limited kind of rudimentary thing to make something, but you put it together in such an artistically incredible way, then you know, that plays to your point. People will, in my opinion, find it and be inspired.
Eventually,
by it.
Yeah, they will. So
oh no,
you opened for John Legend, and now you're opening for me. I mean, there's clearly a difference, but what's the main difference for you? Don't try me.
This is going to be fun. This is going to be really fun.
I'm nervous.
So John's an incredible artist. He's great, but I feel like I'm going to be speaking to an audience that gets me a little bit more. So
right, and they're crazy.
They
good. Like, in the best way. It's funny because you and I both have music that's like, I mean, you have a better mix, but for me especially, I have a lot of like chill, get a glass of wine, get in a bathtub, and just relax kind of music. But when we're performing and like the crowd, I don't know, I'm telling you, it's gonna be so much fun. Like, they're the best. And I think because we're so similar in just our music, we have a lot of similarities, but we have our own little things that I think connect to people, and they're just like the best people to connect with. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
I'm looking forward to it. I know you've done a lot of collaborations, you know, A$AP Rocky, Khalid. I won't, you know, ever make you pick favorites or anything, but what do you love about that experience of collaboration, and what are some stories you can share?
When it comes to collaborations, I'm like kind of picky just because I normally write alone. The reason was the fear of like, first of all, being vulnerable and just like opening yourself up to somebody, being afraid that they won't understand. So when it comes to artists, it's interesting because it's almost inevitable that they understand, you know, and being able to sit there in a room and just experience what their creative process is like and kind of like mix it together is the most fun thing like I can do. Like, for example, with Khalid, we met through like festivals that we were doing, and we were just big fans of each other, you know, prior to even meeting each other. The song that I have with Khalid, it was done, it was written fully, but I felt like I was missing a male perspective. So I was like looking at my small list of artist friends that I have, and Khalid, I felt not only would be the perfect fit conceptually, but vocally as well.
I know you and I went into the studio and
we did
some things. I mean, what was the vibe? Because like you, I really don't collab that much, and that's the hardest to me for sure. Like, some of them are great, but when there's one that you just don't click with,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's tough.
It's always the worst when you're like expecting to work with somebody and like so excited to work with somebody, and then it just goes really bad.
Exactly.
Luckily, we didn't, you know, have that problem. It went really well.
It was the opposite. I mean, of going bad. It was like
it was
hyperdrive.
Amazing. I've known of you since I started working with Stint, because he did not stop talking about you. I was like, oh, we're in a session. Can you stop talking about Gallant? So yeah, it was like something that him and I were talking about all the time. It's like, oh, we have to do something together, and so we did like 2 in a day. I don't do that ever. I'm like, 1 song and that's all you get from me.
That made me feel better, because I was like, damn, it takes me like a week to write a verse sometimes.
Really? Oh, no.
Sometimes, you know, like make it, you know.
Yeah, it depends, but it was fun.
Yep, we cooked it up.
We killed that.
We did.
So, if you could give me like one, okay, as many as you want, but like one, the least. One word to describe you as an artist, if someone were to ask you, what would it be?
I don't know. I mean, maybe like, it might be too strong, but like a little like indecipherable. Sometimes I feel
What
like.
does that word even mean?
I don't know. I feel like I used to not talk at all. I used to be mute, basically. But I still, would make music in my room alone. And the music would be, like, you'd listen to it and then you see the kid who doesn't speak, who's in the corner of the barbecue, and you'd be like, what is going on with this?
Really?
Yeah, it's like, like in the horror movie where the kid, like, draws some, like,
That's
crazy
kinda
thing.
terrifying.
Yeah, so, I feel like I reveal everything through my music. I'm not dancing all in the videos. I'm not necessarily jumping in front of every camera.
Right.
That could be interesting to a lot of people. They see something that's a little bit tough to really decode on the outside, but then once they dive into the stuff that I make, they can hopefully get like a little bit more of an understanding of where I'm coming from.
I like that. Indecipherable. That's a long word.
So I have to ask you the same question.
I don't know why I asked you this question. I guess I would say honest and authentic. I kind of grew up the same way, where I was the most insecure and I was like naturally sad. I don't know why. I have the best family. I was raised in an amazing household. I had nothing to be like sad about, but I was always sad and very insecure. And I think it was because I'm just the type of person that always needs to know, like, what am I supposed to be doing in this life? For a long time, I didn't know what it was. When I started making music, I just became naturally happier and more confident. Like, maybe 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to sit here and like have a conversation with you. So once I gained that confidence, I started creating music that was true to me and like the most honest that I could be. And it's the most proud quality that I have.
So I know you just released a new single, Holding the Gun.
Yes, I did. And I know you're working on stuff too.
Yeah. I mean, my first album came out in like 2016. Now I put out Crimes and Sharpest Edges from my next album. So tell me a little bit, how personal is your music to you? Because I know your song Holding the Gun could be taken in one way, but then for a lot of other people it could mean something a little bit more specific to their situation.
Well, that's like my favorite part about the music, because even, for example, my song Belong to You, I wrote that about self-love, but when you listen to the song, it sounds as if it were about a relationship. And to me, it's like, take it however it feels better to you. You know what I mean? I think Holding the Gun is a little bit more specific, just because it's pretty, like, in your face what the song is about. It's obviously about just, like, loyalty and ride or die relationship or friendship, or just, something with family, a sibling. I just feel more empowered when everybody can relate to it in whatever way they feel they can best.
Right.
So, as an artist, with everything that's happening in the world, do you feel some sort of responsibility to speak out about it through your music or just in general?
Me personally, I feel like if there's a cause, and there are many right now for sure that inspire me to speak out, like I'd say something, I'd volunteer. So I think the best way to do it is obviously by voting and not feeling like you're too good to vote.
Yeah, I agree. I do feel, though, that us as artists, we have our own way of dealing with certain things or speaking out about certain things. I know personally, I'm not the best with like anything political or anything that's like super controversial. I'm not one to just like voice it without it being a part of the art, if that makes sense.
I think everyone, gets to choose how they want to use their music.
Was there a time where you used your artistry to speak out on something specific that you believed in?
Yeah, there was a remake of Soul Asylum video that helped find missing kids. Thankfully, we recreated the same kind of scenario and brought, a couple kids who were missing back home with kind of like a geolocation video that allowed people to view it and then actually see kids in their area.
What? That's amazing.
So yeah, I was really inspired by the fact that that could actually make a difference.
That's awesome.
In your career thus far, what do you think has been the most memorable thing somebody's told you?
It's definitely always what the fans, I hate saying fans, I don't know why, like people who support my music, what they tell me all the time, like a specific song helped them through something in their life, whether it be a relationship or something that they were personally going through. And those statements make me feel like the music that I'm making, or just me writing, period, has some sort of a purpose. Even when I'm being like super hard on myself, or I'm self-doubting or whatever, it's like, this is going to help somebody, and I'm going to meet them one day and they're going to tell me that it did.
That's amazing.
Well, this has been really fun talking to you, Gallant.
Absolutely. It's been such a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for asking really good questions. I guess I'll see you when our tour starts.
Yeah.